cleaning the desk, drinking coffee, and let's start. So today we will be talking about beliefs, desires, intentions, and this is the idea that really moves on Daniel Dennett. You remember the philosopher ideas. We remember the intentional stance, and today we will be talking more about the so-called practical reasoning. Practical reasoning. And so to give you some brief overview, a bigger picture of things, we basically, what we already did was we sort of sketched the landscape of design of intelligent agents, and had only one concrete architecture that was a sort of action selection as a theorem proving, right? So our landscape actually looks like this. We have something like the theorem prover here, and we have a thermostat here. So to understand the scale here, we're talking about the most reactive thing we can think of, very reactive. And here we have something very rigid, crystal clear mathematics, but very rigid, right? And so basically the idea is now what's here in the middle ground around Daniel Dennett mouth. And today we will move from the rigid sort of planning ideas towards the middle ground, towards more reactivity. And we will be talking about the BDI architecture, beliefs, desires, and intention. And the next lecture, we will try to come from the other end. So from the really reactive, like the pure reactive things, we will try to see things that are sort of less reactive, and we will be talking about subsumption architecture. Subsumption architecture that's very reactive, you will see, and some hybrid layered architectures. So that's the idea. We already covered the theorem prover thing. We now do the BDI, and then the next lecture will go from the reactive point, subsumption architectures and hybrid architectures. And we sort of hopefully meet somehow in the middle with architectures that are trying to offset the planning part, the planning and the reactive part here, right? So that's the idea, and let's move on to the BDI really. For today's slides, I have chosen, because it's about practical reasoning, I have chosen a painting by Roy Lichtenstein, who's a famous American painter from the 60s and 70s. And his idea was to connect, he's a pop art artist, and his idea was to connect the popular side of paintings with the higher gallery world. And you probably know Andy Warhol as one of the most famous pop artists. So Roy Lichtenstein was also one of those guys who tried to connect pop art with high art, and it makes sense to use him here as an illustration, because the practical reasoning is basically trying to do the same, to use the planning and reasoning, mathematical and AI capabilities, but to make them more human-like. So that's the idea. Okay, we know a lot about mathematical reasoning in its purest form, is theorem proving. You can think of some kind of planning techniques, more like AI search. uh, and I'm laughing to Robert remark. So okay, really, my daughter, he's also having online lectures at the high school, but they're obviously boring. She listens to me and she's complaining that the last lecture I didn't say any jokes or uh, encourage you to send some jokes. So please, for the sake of my daughter, if there's any joke, feel free to comment, tell it, send it to the chat. I'll be glad, and she'll be glad too. Obviously, mathematics is not that entertaining in her room. So, anyways, the practical reasoning. Yeah, let's try to think how humans actually reason and do decisions. Uh, and in the second half of 20th century, there was a bunch of philosophers. They were saying, well, there's theoretical world like mathematics, and we can have the theoretical reasoning, the mathematical reasoning, but that's mostly it can influence what we think about the world. That's in our mind, basically. So we can develop theories and so on. They're important. They're abstraction of real world, and so on and so on. But they were trying to stress the practical nature of human reasoning, saying that basically humans reason in day-to-day life, make decisions about things, and it leads to actions, right? So there was an identification of two phases. Like we have a deliberation, that's an important deliberation deliberation phase. We are deciding what we want to achieve, uh, basically identifying goals and so on. And then you can think of, okay, we have a goal. So what we now use is the means and reasoning. You probably know from AI that basically the idea how to create plans to achieve something is that you pretty much know what state you are in of the environment, and you have your goal state here, right? So basically there's either way that you try to change things here and move towards the goal state, or vice versa. You know the goal states, so you're trying to reach the goal by going this direction, right? In any case, you know the goal, because the deliberation told you what the goal is, what you want to achieve, and the reasoning part is about how to achieve it, right? How to achieve the goal. uh, so that pretty much in accordance with our agents and environments interactions and abstract models. So that's fine, and we can move on and try to describe the BDI model that is the BDI is composed of three different parts and then some algorithms and functions, as you will see. But the idea is that we have beliefs. So the B is for beliefs. Beliefs, they represent agent knowledge. So you can think of agents with state, as we had in the previous lectures, and the state can be actually a database of knowledge. So, uh, so beliefs is a knowledge base, and in multi-agent systems, they're usually called beliefs and not knowledge, because knowledge it sounds very objective, like a ground truth. But from the point of view of an agent, it's just a belief, because they are subjective. They represent only a limited knowledge. Uh, from the point of view of an agent, what the agent currently knows, they can change in the future. They are not necessarily true uh, in general. So that's why we stress this by calling them beliefs. But still, it's a knowledge. The knowledge can have two parts, which we will encounter when we will be talking about agent communication and description logics. Usually, the beliefs has some like facts, like Mary is a mother of John, and so on. But it can have some inference rules as well, or more general uh, information that tells you how to come from one piece of information to another. So, from our example from the previous lecture about family relationships and family ties, this can be like a definition what an uncle is, for example, right? So we can use these to infer new information and sort of move on in processing the symbolic information, the symbolic knowledge. So that's beliefs. The D is for desires, and desires from our previous picture, they uh, they in fact represent goals. In terms of uh, motivational states. Motivational state, meaning my idea of the goal state, what I want to achieve, right? Uh, there is a Bretman quote on the slides where Bretman is trying to come with a real world example. So he says, my desire is to play basketball this afternoon. It is merely a potential influencer of my conduct. Uh, it must be in accordance with my other relevant desires before it is settled what I will do. In contrast, once I intend to play basketball this afternoon, the matter is settled. I do not need to continue to weigh the pros and cons of playing basketball or whatever it was, some suspicious activity. When the afternoon arrives, I will normally just proceed to execute my intentions. So the desires are motivational states. You can have more desires. You can think of playing basketball this afternoon, or going to meet some friends and have a beer with them, or study multi-agent systems. Um, then you select one of those desires to be your real goal. Bretman calls it intention, and then you just start to execute the intention, right? So, what is the intention? Well, intention is actually the while the desires are sort of possible goals, the intention is the selected goal. So, uh, so out of your desires, you select a goal, and then you commit yourself to uh, satisfying this goal. So it is a goal, it's a state of the world that agent wants to achieve. I mean, wants, right? You remember Daniel Dennett again, intentional stance, right? Uh, the intentions should lead to actions, because in order to achieve the goal state of the environment, uh, your desired state of the world, you have to start doing some actions. So uh, basically, what you are trying to do by selecting an intention, you produce a plan how to achieve this intention, right? And the intention persists in your mind until you achieve the intention, or uh, until you start to believe that you cannot do the intention. So playing basketball is nice, and when you fulfill the intention, you go to the playground, you play the basketball, you say, yeah, fine, I achieved the intention. Now let's go and have another intention, then the beer, for example, and so on. Or maybe you start believing the intention cannot be achieved, like there's a snowstorm outside, so you maybe reevaluate and choose another intention out of your desires. Or maybe reasons leading to the intention disappear, uh, like you want to meet your friends and play basketball, but it's locked down. All of a sudden the government says, well, it's 2 p.m., we declaring a total lockdown, stay in your home. So the reason leading to the intention disappear, right? Yeah. Okay, so also intentions influence what the agent will believe in the future. They sort of influence your knowledge base again. So that's actually, this is the BDI model that consists of those sets of information, your beliefs, your desires, and your intentions. And I have a typo here, right? Believe like this. So for the description of our agent, more formal description, we will need the BDI, capital BDI, as variables for current agent beliefs, current agent desires, and current agent intentions. So these capital B, D, and I will actually be variables containing those sets of usually logical formulas uh, describing the beliefs, desires, and intentions. And we
Excuse
also have sets of all possible beliefs, all possible desires, and all possible intentions. They're bel, des, and int, like the set of all possible desires. So,
excuse me.
uh-huh, yes.
For desires, so are they dynamic or static? It's like the desires, are they modified throughout the agent
Well,
life?
you will see that desires are dynamic as well. We will just describe it now. Yeah, the
Okay,
desires are also dynamic. They
okay,
depend on what you believe. Uh, Actually, they depend on your current intentions. So yeah, desires, they also depend on a current state. The problem is that for the model to work well, you of course do not want to change your desires very often. So what we will see is that our action selection procedure is has several stages, and in one stage we will be selecting a desires, then uh, filtering the desires to select an option, and then subscribes to an option like intention, and then we will try to fulfill this intention. And the idea is this would be planning, really, sort of rigid planning. But from time to time, we can reconsider if we still want to stick to the plan uh, satisfying this intention or not. Maybe we can choose another intention, or maybe we can choose a new desires. But this represent various levels of changing our state of mind, right? So you will see that yes, desires are dynamic, but from principle, they should not be that dynamic. We should stick to some of our goals we've chosen for some time, right? So they should be persistent. Nevertheless, they depend on, they're not pre programmed like completely. They depend on current states of agent.
okay. Thank you.
Sure. So we can actually try to describe the scheme. Uh, so we have a question. Yes, yes, Robert. You it's not that in principle. Yes, Yes. Yeah, that's a nice example. You have a nice intention to do sports, but you see a comics shop along the way. Yeah, yeah. So you change your mind. Yes, you will see in the algorithm that this is possible. Although, as I've said, the balance between how to stick with your current goal and whether to change the current goal, that's one of the hard parts of designing the agent, because to change the goal is, in fact, in principle, in general, it's an expensive operation. I understand that going to a football field and sort of taking a right turn and come to the comics shop is does not seem like a very expensive operation, but in general, if for each intention you have to make a plan, it takes some time and so on. So we will be dealing with this in the algorithm. Just a basic skeleton of the algorithm. Uh, so imagine we have the three sets, as I've said, the set of beliefs, the set of desires, and the set of intentions. And now the environment is sending us some inputs through sensors. So here we have the inputs from the environment, and here we should be able to produce an action, right? So based on our sets of beliefs and desires and intentions, we will try to generate new ones and commit to those, right? So what we have at our disposal is that we have, I start here, the actions are produced by our action function that we already know, and and we also know that the action is influenced directly, the action selection mechanism is influenced directly by intentions. So when we produce the action, we have an action function that deals with the intentions. But how do we update all the B and D and I? So for the that's gonna be new things. So for the update of the beliefs, uh, based on the input that come from the environment, we have a function that takes the inputs from the environment, takes the current state of beliefs, and updates the beliefs based on the input. So there's nothing special here really, and we call it a belief refresh function. So it's a BRF, belief refresh function. So that's one of the functions. That's belief refresh function. Um, then from the uh, from the beliefs, we have a function that should update the desires, and this function is called options. So this function takes the beliefs and creates new desires, but it also considers what our current goals are. So the option generating function takes beliefs, our information about the state of the world, and our current goal. So you will see that, for example, the option function for Robert can be that the current intention is going to play is to go to play football or whatever, some kind of sport. But the belief refresh function says, oh, there's a comic store around the corner. So the option function can actually generate a new desire. Buy a Batman, Robert. I need another Batman. And so you generate a new desire for the Batman, right? What happens next? Well, the desires should be somehow transformed into the intentions, right? So for this, we have a function called filter, and the filter takes the desires and takes the beliefs and intentions. That's a complex function, the filter, and produces new intentions. So, again, how it works from top left to down right. The environment is producing some inputs. We process those inputs, and through the BRF, the belief refresh function, we're updating. Try to animate this. So the environment is producing inputs. We produce the belief refresh. So we're taking the beliefs and updating them, right, by the belief refresh function. Then the next step is to generate new desires. For this, we have options function, and the options function takes the new state, the updated beliefs, but also our current goals we are uh, fulfilling now, and producing a new desires, the motivations. And then we have a mechanism of the filter function that basically is operating on the desires and producing new intentions. And in order to do it in a very general way, it also needs the information about the state of the world and also about what we're doing. So the filter's main idea is to take desires and produce intentions with the help of information, current intentions, and beliefs as well. So that's the idea, and in the end, the end is we're producing a action uh, to the environment, and this is sort of the BDI agent, really, the scheme of a BDI agent. It's still not the algorithm. The algorithm has many other subtle things. So we will come to the algorithm in a minute. Just to be more formal, you have it in slides, but so the options. No, I'll start with the belief refresh. That's better. So the belief refresh function, we understand it comes from perceptions uh, and the all the possible beliefs. So our current state of the B, and it updates the B again. So we're talking about sets of beliefs and producing new sets of beliefs. So that's the belief refresh function, taking perceptions and the old beliefs and producing new beliefs, right? That's the belief refresh function. The options function is uh, producing new desires, right? So the options taking the current belief set and current intentions. There can always be more intentions, right? Currently, and producing new desires. So the options function is generating new desires, possible more of them. And then the filter function we were talking, uh, the filter function takes everything, right? The idea is that it takes intentions and produces intentions, uh, but it also takes desires, and it also takes the beliefs into account, and then it produces the intentions. And then we have the action that is responsible from the intention to produce actions. But this is also a bit more complicated, because we want actually a plan of actions, like a sequence of actions. So That's the idea. How to create actions is from the intentions. It always have some kind of plan, and so we will now stick for a couple of minutes what actually is the planning phase. This is not supposed to be like a full coverage of the planning problems. We will use only one particular approach and only as an illustration, really. So now, how to come with a plan based on an intention, right? Because this sort of is understandable a bit now, and now we will talk about the plans. So the idea is to create a plan. A plan is a sequence of actions, and as an input, we have the goal, the current state, so the current beliefs actually, and we know what actions are available. And the output is a plan as a sequence of actions. And we want the sequence to actually lead to satisfy the goal, right? So that's the idea. And this is an old problem in the computer science. They tackled the first successful formulation of plans and planning is the strips algorithm from the 70s by Nelson. Nelson is one of the big important figures in artificial intelligence. Uh, Before the Russell and Norvig book, AI, A Modern Approach, there was a Nielsen book about artificial intelligence that was sort of a textbook for several generations of AI researchers. And because it's 70s, you can probably guess that their approach is strictly logical in terms of mathematical logic. So they said, well, the beliefs for them, they didn't call it a beliefs, but it's a set of logical formulas. And they were again sticking to the first order logic. And then for each action, that's the important thing. For each action, they had uh, three things. For each action, to describe the action, they had three things: the sort of preconditions, and the preconditions are uh, conditions under which you can actually apply the action. Yeah, so it's sort of a condition before you can apply the action, and that's called preconditions. And then they have effects. So how to describe what the action is doing. And the nice thing is that the effects can be actually of two kinds. The action either adds some facts into the beliefs, or it deletes some facts from the beliefs. So that's nice. So you have your knowledge base, your beliefs, and for each action you have a description what uh, when the action can be applied by the preconditions, and then you have a set of effects, what the action does, what information is added into my beliefs, and what information is deleted from my beliefs when I apply the action. Right? So when you apply the action A1, you have preconditions 1 and sets of formulas to be added and deleted from the knowledge base. So that's perfect, right? the idea is that the means and reasoning is actually, so you have some state you are in, you have the goal state, and what you're doing is that you have a description of the current state by your current B's, right? You have some description of the goal state by some BG, and what you're doing is that you want to compare the differences between the B and the goal BG. So you're trying to identify what's different, right? And then the first step, so probably here, the first step is you you apply some action, right? So you want to apply some actions in order. So you say, okay, I apply some action, and then I decrease the differences between the states. And then I apply another action and I decrease the differences, and so on. And now you're searching for possible actions, what action to apply, what action to apply here. And then you're creating a chain, a sequence of actions until you finally reach the goal state, right? And the idea is you still have those current states and the goal states, and you're trying to decrease the differences. Right? So, so that's the idea of the simplest planning algorithm, and they what they did, what they found an algorithm how to search for those actions, basically. Uh, there's a nice example that you probably heard on the artificial intelligence lectures, because it's one of the classical ones, where you have the so-called block world, where you have a description of the desktop, and on the desktop you have several objects, and those objects can be uh, situated either on the desk or on top of each other, uh, like this. And so the block world is described in a simple mathematical logic, where you have couple predicates describing the state of the world, and they're sort of easy. You have a predicate on x, y, stating that the object x is on top of the object y. So here this would be on green thing, blue thing. You have a predicate on table x, stating an object is on table. And of course the setting was that you have a sort of a mechanical robot here. So you have a mechanical robot with the hand, that's a robot hand. And so you can have uh, predicates for the robot hand that says arm empty, that's now, right? Or you can have a predicate holding x, that's stating that the robot is holding something. So let's make the robot to hold a red ball. So now the robot is holding a red ball. You also have a predicate that I forgot, clear x, meaning that there's nothing on top of some object. So this pink brick can will satisfy the clear pink brick. Nothing is on, and actually you can easily describe some goal state and initial state. So for the example, we have just, yeah, let's do quickly the example. We have so I leave the table. and let's see what's in the example. So just to give you a flavor how difficult or complex it is. So we have a clean table, not completely clean, but we put some objects there, and so we have a definition of the initial state. That's clear A, on A B, um, on table B, on table C, and clear C. So what does it says? Well, it says there's nothing on A and nothing on C, and A is on B, and B is on table. So okay, so we have probably like an object A. Uh, that's on object B. So this is object. So this is object B. We have object A here, right? So A is on B, and C is somewhere here. So this will probably be it. C here. A is here, and B is here, right? And so that's the initial state, and then you can describe your goal state, and the goal state can be on table A, on table B, on table A, on table B, on table C. So of course the idea is that we should remove this guy, put it here, right? Uh, okay, so uh, the how do we do it? Well, we should describe the actions, right, by the preconditions and effects. So let's try at least one or two possible actions, and in this scenario, and then we will move on, because I think that you sort of understand the situation. Just to give you a flavor how to program in this strips environment. So the actions uh, should be described by the preconditions, the delete effect, and the add effect. So one of the iconic actions is stack x y, and let's see from the description what it does. So we have a preconditions, and the preconditions are y is clear, and the robot is holding x. So that's precondition. The effects, the delete effect is, so we're deleting effect that, well, we're pretty much deleting these two. Y is clear and holding x. But the important effect is what we're adding. What's new information? Well, the new information is that it's arm empty. Obviously, robot dropped the object X he was holding, and where did this object end? Well, on top of X, right? Because on X is now true. So the precondition is the Y object has nothing on top, and the robot is holding object X. And when we finish the action, when we execute the action, the arm is empty, the object on XY, sorry. The object as X is on object Y, and this previous pieces of knowledge is deleted from our database, right? So, so that's a stack action, meaning put object X on top of object Y, right? That's our idea. But in order, so the idea is the object Y is on a table, and the robot hand is holding, that's the robot hand is holding a object X. That's before, and after the robot arm is holding nothing, and we have object X on top of object Y. That's after, right? This is clear. We can have another action called unstack. You see that the stack action is sort of very trivial. It requires the robot hand to actually hold the object already. So in order to actually do something, we need an action called pickup X for the robot that says basically pick the object X, right? So the last thing, what does it actually mean uh, when we are able to pick up an object? Well, what the preconditions are. So the preconditions are that the object is on table, right? There's nothing on the object, and robotic arm is empty. It should make sense, right? In order for the robot to be able to pick up the object, the arm has to be empty, the object has to be on table, and there's nothing on X, right? And when it's done, so the add is easy. We have the holding X predicate. So we're adding a predicate. We are now holding the object X. What we're deleting the object is not on table anymore. It's in robot hand, and the arm is not empty anymore. So we're deleting the arm empty uh, predicate from the knowledge base, right? So that's a pickup action, right? And in a similar way, we can do other actions in this world. We will probably see more examples in the future of this, but this is just to give you an idea that in order to come with a reasonable plan, composing the actions together, you sort of should be able to create the sequence of actions that can go one after another. And so for this, for each action, we identified the preconditioning and the effects in terms of adding and deleting information, how the world is changed, and we have all these descriptions for all possible actions, right? Then we can create the plan by checking the possibilities of the action with concrete examples based on our uh, beliefs, current beliefs, right? And checking if the beliefs, if we perform the action and the belief set is changed, are we moving closer to the G, to the goal, or not, right? And if we're moving closer to the goal state, we go this way. Otherwise, we choose another action and check it again. So that's the idea of very simple, simplistic planning algorithm. Uh, for our purposes of describing the BDI in a sort of algorithmic way, we just define the plans uh, a bit more formally. So we have a set of actions, and for each action, we defined a descriptor that actually is pretty much what we have just uh, illustrated. That's the preconditions of an action, delete effects of an action, and add effects of an action. So the descriptor is a triple, uh, and each part is a set of logical formulas that's describing the conditions under which we can apply the action, the preconditions, and then the effects, right? Perfect. So then we can define a set of all descriptors of the actions. So that's a set of descriptors, the capital O set of descriptors, and then we define the planning problem for us. The planning problem is actually a triple that's the initial beliefs, uh, the the goal state, and then the set of descriptors. Uh, and each descriptor is a set of triples for each action, right? So the planning problem is get from B0 to G through the actions described by the descriptors in capital O. Nothing special here. Then the plan is a sequence of A1 to AN, where all the AI are from the actions, of course, but we have to define the when the plan is actually good. Well, if you think of the sequences of the belief states going from B0, B1, B2, and so on, and here we perform action 1, here we perform action 2, and so on. So for the sequence, we have to know that the next belief is actually the original belief, the one step before, and it's minus the deletes of the action we selected, and plus the add effects of the action we selected, right? Yeah. So we have the B1 origin, and it's the result of applying A1 for B0. So the B1 is the B0 minus the delete effects from the action we just performed, uh, unified with the add effects, right? So this is an important condition saying that for the plan, uh, this is the correct sequence of actions resulting in correct sequence of beliefs when executing the plan. Uh, that's one condition. Another condition is that, uh, of course, we want to say that the action can be executed, which means that from the bi minus 1, we can actually infer the execution of the action, which meaning the preconditions for the action AI can be fulfilled. So so uh, this is like mathematical proven or derived by. So the preconditions of the action we are trying to execute are not contradicting the beliefs, right? The current beliefs. So this is important. The first thing says that we are sort of correctly updating the beliefs. The second condition is saying we are correctly applying the action. We apply the action AI only if the preconditions of the action are not contradicting the current beliefs, right? That's understandable as well. Uh, so the last thing we would like to see is that we end up in the goal state. So the last well the last thing is that the final be, is it n minus one? It's probably the final is n. So the goal state is the in the end, right? So that's a correct plan. I repeat, plan is a sequence of actions, and we want three conditions to hold. The first is that the application of actions is creating a correct set of beliefs. So the beliefs are updated according to the descriptors, meaning we are deleting the delete effects and we are adding the add effects, right? The second thing is that the actions are applied in a correct way, so the preconditions hold for each environmental state in which we are applying the action. And the second thing is we are heading towards the goal state. Okay, so that's the definition of a correct plan that solves, that takes us, remember, from the B0 to G based on the action descriptors in O. So that's a plan, right? Uh, okay, and now the idea is we put everything together and we say, okay, we will do the planning in the function within the agent that we call plan, and the action is basically creating the intentions, turning intentions into plans, right? So we're going, we need the beliefs, we need the intentions, and we need the actions available, and we're creating a plan. So that's the function how to plan, and we just described how it's done, right? Uh, and if this were a talk about planning and scheduling, then we can start discussing the various efficient ways where to plan and how to plan. But we're not going that. We actually only say that the in multi-agent systems, usually the plans are uh, composed of sort of a library of plans, and so even though in theory we just described the mechanism how we search for all the plans, but in practical implementations we hope that we have sort of predefined sequences of several actions together that make sense, and we have a library of those sequences, and then the planning is usually trying to search in the library for those longer plans and apply the plan. So now the idea is to express the BDI uh, in an algorithm. So let's try to do it. So what we're doing is now we are trying to do the whole algorithm for the deliberation and planning part, and even this reconsidering and replanning issues we were discussing at the beginning. So remember that the idea is that we're still operating with B, D, and I variables, and that's pretty much what we will need. So we start by uh, starting by some belief zeros and some intention zeros, um, and the desires are nothing for now, and basically we're entering the infinite loop, like the life of an agent. That's the life of an agent. And so let's try to formalize what we have seen in the big picture, the scheme of an agent. So what we're doing is, first we're getting some uh, information from the environment through the function c, and now we start to update things. So first we do updating the uh, beliefs. For this we have the belief refresh function, taking the beliefs and taking what we've seen, the sensor's information, right? So we updated our beliefs based on the sensor information from the environment. Oh, then we create our desires. For desires, we have the options, right? So the options, taking the beliefs and intentions and creating the desires. And then the next thing is to filter the desires and come with new intentions. So that's important. So we're filter, and the filter, it takes all the B and D and I, but the idea is it comes with new intentions based on the desires and intentions and beliefs. So now we have the intentions, right? And what we do next is we do the planning. So for the intention, we create a plan, current beliefs, intention, and the set of actions. So we're creating a plan. A plan is a sequence of actions. So now what we're going to do, we start to execute the plan, right? So now we're ready to execute the plan. How do we do it? Well, it's a cycle. We just go through the plan, take the first action that's there, and try to execute it and see, right? So so the execution of a plan is another cycle, while, and there are a couple of conditions here. So while not the not empty P, so the plan, there's still something in the plan, uh, or we succeeded, uh, we fulfilled the goal, or something that's we call impossible. The agent starts to believe that there is impossible to fulfill. It's impossible to fulfill the plan under circumstances. So that's a condition of three things. The plan is still not empty. We uh, have not succeeded, or we have not come to the idea that it's impossible to fulfill the plan. So while this holds, we're executing the plan in the cycle. And we have a question by Hamza. Why do desires depend on intentions? Yeah, that's because the intention is sort of what you currently doing, and it should influence even your future plans, even if those plans, like desires, are only possibilities, right? Like some example, yeah. So imagine that you would love to go to I don't know, Caribbean, but currently there's a lockdown, so there's a situation that's somehow described in your beliefs, but it also influenced your intentions. So even if your desire is to go to Caribbean, depending on current state and what you are currently doing, uh, it's impossible. So intentions is something you're currently working on hard, and that's why it influences your desires as well. I mean, of course, you can be a dreamer, a bold dreamer, and your filter says, "Well, I don't care what I'm doing right now. I just take all the possible desires and I try to ignore what I'm doing. Try to ignore my current intentions." That's also possible. That's just an implementation of the filter. Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, you discover something based on what you're doing. Uh, yeah, yeah, change the desires. Yes, yes. As I have said, in this is a general scheme, and of course you can think of having, for example, very reactive type of BDI agent. Then probably the current intentions will not have such an effect on what you're filtering from your desires, right? So if you want to be more reactive, you will probably ignore most of the information based on your current intention. That's what reactivity is about, right? Like reacting only on a very current situation, not taking the history into account. So that's, yeah, that's one of the possibilities. But this is sort of a general mechanism, and it should allow to take the current intention into effect. And usually, actually, people do it. Usually, people do it as well. So for let's go back to the cycle. Now we have a plan, and we are trying to execute the plan, which meaning going from one action to another and executing the action and see what's happening. So how do we do it? Well, actually, we have a function head that extracts the first action from the plan. So we're taking the action A, that's the head of a plan now. We're executing the action, and the rest of a plan, we remove the action. So that's like using a function tail that removes the action A from the plan, right? After the execution, so that's tail, not fail. That's tail, like the rest of it. After the execution, we of course have to update the environment. Uh, so we sense the environment and we do the update, the BRF. The BRF takes B and the sensors. So we executed the action and we update the information from the environment and immediately update the belief state. And now you see we're in the inner loop, right? So we're executing the plan. So if you were a planning agent, you will just say, uh, okay, that's it. I continue and just moved on here. This would be a planning agent, right? But the idea, why are we doing this BDI magic, is that now we want to decide whether we're continuing the plan or not. So for this, we have a function that tells us, I mean, look at your intentions. Is it still okay to do the plan? So we call this function reconsider, and the reconsider is taking the intentions and the beliefs, and if it says no, then it's fine and we continue Uh, but if it says, oh, you should reconsider, the situation has changed rapidly. You wanted, Robert, you wanted to play football, but it's raining cats and dogs. So is there a comics shop plan? So if the reconsider function tells you reconsider, then what you do is you do the options and filter magic. So you are reconsidering your options. So you update your desires and you update your intentions by filter. The filter's taking B, D, and I, right? So we have some function, suspiciously looking function, that that checks the intentions and the beliefs and telling you, uh-oh, time for a new goal, basically. So this is one of the things that differs from the usual planning. We have a mechanism, it's time to change your goals. And this mechanism is for now hidden in the function reconsider. Now, uh, we can have another situation, especially if we reconsidered now, but even if we did not reconsider, the situation of the outside world can change, not in a way that we should reconsider the goal, but maybe uh, the situation has changed in a way that we should reconsider the plan. So we have another if telling us if the plan is good enough still, and that's a function that tells if the plan is sound. The P is sound with respect to the intention and the belief. And if the plan is not sound, then we try to do a new plan. So we're replanning BI and the actions. So again, this is important thing. We're checking if the plan is still good for the for the situation, and if not, we are replanning. And this is pretty much it. So we continue here this cycle and while, and this whole thing goes and while here indefinitely in the sort of indefinite loop. So what is important uh, to understand again, uh, some new some new color. What's a good color? This one. That basically we always have this part where we update the senses from the environment, we update the beliefs, we generate the desires, and we filter uh, the goal we want to fulfill, right? That's the idea of functioning of the agent: getting senses from the environment, updating the beliefs, generating the desires, filtering the goals to fulfill. Then we have the part where we produce the plan. So based on the goal and based on the current situation, we're producing a plan. A plan is a sequence of actions. So what we're doing once we have a plan, we're trying to execute the plan. No, 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 no. Now we're digging into cycle, Robert, and you will see we're updating the knowledge base after each action executed. Yeah. I was just describing this before we're digging into plan. So now we have a plan that's a sequence of actions. Yeah. And so the plan is really like A. And what we're doing, we're taking the first A, executing it, updating everything, and taking the second one, executing it, updating everything. Third action, executing, updating everything. And that's here, right? We're taking the action from the plan, we're executing it, and we're updating the beliefs after each action executed, right? That's what we have to do. The other thing is when uh, when we should do corrections to our long-term or mid-term mechanisms. And these are the next two lines telling us two cases. Well, the one case, the red one, the reconsider case, it's an earthquake basically. We're saying the situation, it has changed so much that you should reconsider your desires. So this reconsider is really important, right? The, the world has changed a lot. Reconsider your desires. So we're doing this part, generating new desires and filtering new intentions, right? So that's this part from the beginning, right? This is sort of acting on the current situation, but not reconsidering everything about our planning. This reconsider situation is important because it's big change. The world is totally different, so we should generate new desires and select new intentions. So this is the very big change, right? This one, the reconsider. The replan situation, this one, the violet one, it only says, well, the intention is okay, the goal is still fine, but the world has changed in a way that the plan is no longer good. Something has changed in the environment that you did not foresee, and now the plan is not valid anymore, right? So the plan is not sound. So keep your intentions, but create a new plan to continue to fulfill the goal. You're still fulfilling the same goal, but you have to find a new way how to do it, a new plan. So this is replanning. And why it's first reconsider and then replan? Well, it's just a technical thing, but it's more convenient this way because if you reconsider your goals, maybe you have to replan anyways, right? Because you have new goal, so you have to replan anyways. So the original plan, you discard it anyways, right? So you first check if you're reconsidering and then checking if you're replanning. And again, this these reconsiderations and replannings should not be done too often. That's the idea, right? We have the mechanism here, the uh, the simple planning mechanisms or procedures you learn at the planning uh, lectures. They are usually not replanning, not reconsidering. So they have only this part and just executing the plan. The multi-agent system area is always trying to emphasize that there's more agents in the environment or the environment can change. So you replan when the environment changes and you sort of force to replan. You're checking the consistency of the environment with your plan. If there are changes that are incompatible with your plan, you're replanning. So you're replanning sort of when you force to replan. But sometimes the changes in the environment are so that you should also reconsider the options. I mean, it can happen. It can happen even in a good way. Somehow your goal is fulfilled, and you're not finished your plan, but the goal is fulfilled already. You're saving for a BMW, for example, and your plan is to save, I don't know, 100,000 Czech crowns every month from your night programming job. But all of a sudden, your parents decide for Christmas that they give you the remaining million. So when checking your account, you say, oh, uh, I have enough money for my BMW, so maybe I'm reconsidering, right? So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Even good things can happen. Your plan is maybe fulfilled by some, coincidences in the environment. So that's, I think, sort of understandable. Katerina, no, you don't want my parents. That was just a theoretical example, and I don't have a BMW. No, and every time I buy a new analog camera for a couple hundred crowns, I have to save for myself for the camera. So my example would be more like, oh, there's a cheap Pentax on eBay because some Japanese is getting rid of it. Uh, no, but I thought that the BMW example would be sort of more flashy, and we all remember the BMW than the analog cameras example. Um, okay, then. So more about the reconsidering and replanning. Oh, Robert is asking. So before, well, it's those like things like this. You put some people in it, and you drive to the comic store because it gets you there faster, and the BMW is sort of I don't really know how it looks like. I don't really remember the BMW logo, something like that. Um, so yeah, that's my idea of a BMW, probably an older one from James Bond movies with Sean Connery. Why it's a BMW? This looks like a spare tire now, but it's a BMW logo. I will promise I'll improve on my BMW logo painting skills. I can Google it. Yeah, yeah. I had it almost. It's like this. This is blue. So this is BMW logo. I knew there is something, but I was thinking of this, and this is Mercedes. And I remember the last time I was trying to summon demons, it ended up like a communist star. So now I'm careful with those. Yeah, this is sort of BMW, Mercedes. Pardon, Mercedes. This is BMW. Yeah, perfect. I'll probably leave Skoda logo for the next time because it's more complex. And in the last 5 minutes, I'll tell you something more about the commitment of agents to the goals, which is in relationship to the replanning and reconsidering, basically. uh, so, uh, so we were talking about the actually the commitment of agents. It tells us when to abandon the goal. When to abandon the goal, which means the reconsider. We're talking about the reconsidering. The replan always happens when the situation sort of forces us to replan, right? But the commitment to goal, it has it doesn't necessarily be like this. So the replanning is sort of for us. It's sort of vis major, as they says, the bigger will, the outer will from the outside. The environment is changing. the plan no longer works, so we're replanning. We're forced to replan. But the commitment of agents to goal, it can have different levels of commitment. So we have something like a blind commitment. Blind commitment. So these are the agents that maintain the intention until uh, they believe that they fulfill, right? So the blind commitment, you're sticking to the goal, uh, whatever whatever happens around, right? So these are uh, very uh, uh, committed agents, something like suicide squads. You're doing whatever to achieve the goal. Then you have something that's called open-minded. Open-minded is that you check it if you believe it is possible to. Is it still possible? Is it still possible to achieve it? So you're checking. You're checking. Uh, is it still possible? Yeah. So I'll do it. Uh, and then in the between, you can have something that's sometimes called single-minded. Single-minded. It's not well. It's I'm not sure, but we usually call it a one-track mind. People who are only thinking about one thing, uh, whatever that thing is, and so the single-minded, you're the blind do it until it is achieved, right? Until it's done. The single-minded is trying to check, but not if you believe if it is still possible, but either it's done or uh, no longer possible. So the single-minded uh, is actually check it the checking if it's for the counter example. Is there something that's blocking me from achieving the goal? The open-minded is sort of, is it still possible, right? So it's different because we do not have the closed world where one of these things can be uh, in mathematical logic. You usually consider that the statement is either true or false, and you hope that you will find both of the possibilities. You will find at least one of those possibilities, and if you don't find that it holds, then you automatically consider it does not hold. Here, uh, we have open world, non-deterministic environments. So it depends if you check for the obstacles or if you check for the possibility if it's okay, right? So uh, so for this, we have the commitment can be either very blind, like with the planning agents, or very open-minded, where you can easily say, uh, skip this goal and try to reconsider. Uh, the For the practical way the agents work, there's also a dilemma where the deliberation takes time. So you don't want to reconsider very often, right? So that's why we have the function reconsider uh, that only checks if it is necessary to reconsider in a sort of short time, like going through the facts, checking quickly through the environment, and telling you quickly, do we need to reconsider or not? So instead of deliberating in each step, we have some possibly fast function that checks the world and telling us if there's something suspicious changes in the world, then you should reconsider. Or the same thing with the plan, with the replanning. So that's the one of the ideas. We are not reconsidering the goals every step of acting the plan. We only call some function that tells us reconsider, yes, no. This function can also be sort of relaxed, checking the environment only in a limited way, and so maybe providing us with the information, nothing has changed as far as I can tell by a quick check, only small changes, you should probably still stick to your plan, and so on and so on. Because the whole deliberation process, the actual reconsidering, generating the desires and filtering the intention can take time. So of course these two extreme examples are called bold agent. The bold agent reconsiders only, it does not reconsider within executing the plan. So it executes the plan and then checks what happened. Or the very cautious agent, which reconsiders after every action of the plan. And the function reconsider should allow us a finer control of this and getting some sensible trade-off when to actually reconsider. So either a bold agent does not reconsider before the plan finishes, or a very cautious agent reconsiders every action, right? So that's the two extremes, and we should aim for some kind of trade-off optimization. Yeah. It also depends on how the environment is dynamic, how fast it changes, and so on and so on. So in fast environments, it pays off to reconsider more often. In slowly changing environments, it pays to be a bold agent and sort of don't turn around, just run forward with your plan. That's what most of the planning algorithms, classical AI planning, are about, right? And so I see that the practical example of the PRS, that's the BDI in practice, the procedural reasoning system, is left for the next lecture. It's going to be fun. So I will finish here. We're running late. So thanks a lot for the discussion. The BDI approach is really important, and so we spent another 15 minutes at the beginning of the next lecture by a practical example of the PRS system that implements the BDI in a practical way. So I hope you had fun with BDI. I kind of like it. It tells us a bit about how we think. So try to think about those ideas. Remember Daniel Dennett. And yeah, see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.